chat box. It'd be great to hear where you're joining us from and which organizations you're representing. And like I said, we're just going to wait 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we'll get started with a jam-packed webinar. Okay, for those of you who've just joined, welcome, good afternoon. As I said, my name is Jack McQuibben. I am the Zero Waste Cities Program Coordinator here at Zero Waste Europe. And as Harry has just done in the chat box, I think to all registrants, please introduce yourself to everyone, say which organization you're from, and yeah, where you're calling in from today. We will get started in 30 seconds, 1 minute. We're just going to wait for more people to join us, and then we'll get going. Okay, let's get going because we have a packed agenda. So no time to waste, shall we say. As I said, my name is Jack McQuibben. I'm the Zero Waste Cities Program Coordinator at Zero Waste Europe. Thank you very much for joining this webinar looking at the best ways to collect bio-waste in your city. This is the second webinar in our current semester of Zero Waste Europe live webinars. So welcome back. Thank you very much for joining today. These webinars happen sort of once a month from October to June, and we cover a wide range of topics related to waste issues. For those that don't know our organization, Zero Waste Europe is a Brussels-based NGO working on advocacy at the EU level to achieve a zero waste society. But we also have a network of organizations implementing, supporting municipalities to implement as well strategies at the local and national levels across Europe. And the Zero Waste Cities program is dedicated to help cities and communities transition towards zero waste. It brings together a European platform of knowledge for local stakeholders to really implement, design, monitor the best practices of zero waste, and to really help guide authorities through their journey towards becoming zero waste. And today we have nearly 500 European municipalities who have committed and started their journey towards zero waste, and this is led by the development and implementation of the world's first Zero Waste City certification. A big part of the work that we do in the Zero Waste Cities program is to build and share knowledge around key zero waste topics relevant for those working at the local level today. So today's webinar topic is exactly this, so let's get started. Article 22, for those of you who aren't in the depths of EU legislation, is the article of the Waste Framework Directive that mandates that all EU member states separately collect bio-waste from the 1st of January 2024. It has been rightly identified as a key priority for governments, given that bio-waste makes up over a third of municipal waste in the EU. And often when you look at the residual waste, the sort of non-recyclable mixed waste, you get 40, 50, 60% of this is organics. So it's a real priority for municipalities in Europe, and yet there's no obligation from the EU about how to collect these materials or advice on what the best collection models are. And of course, within the EU, we have sort of goals for recycling of 55% by 2025, increasing up to 65% by 2035. And the fulfillment of these targets is heavily dependent on governments and municipalities' ability to collect organics and get them out of mixed waste through prevention measures first, or if not, then through effective collection and treatment models. And yet, sort of despite this urgency, there remains a wide variety of collection and treatment models used across Europe today. Increasingly, municipalities are opting for open or locked street bins, street containers. These are easier, perhaps, to introduce and cheaper, but ultimately much less effective, with vastly higher contamination rates and lower quantities of waste collected. This is especially when you compare them to door-to-door separate collection schemes, which are proven to deliver the best results for lower contamination, high-quality composting, and higher volumes of organic waste that's collected rather than ending up in landfills or incinerators. And therefore, this webinar comes at an urgent time. We just have over 12 months now until this mandatory deadline in the EU for organics collection kicks in, and therefore it's imperative that municipalities avoid locking themselves into poor performing systems that will not result in achieving our circular economy goals. So this webinar, we have 4 fantastic speakers to showcase how different cities in Europe are implementing some of the best systems for bio-waste collection and treatment. And so we'll look at how they did this and what can be done to replicate these best practices elsewhere. Each of our 4 speakers today will speak for 8 or 9 minutes, and then after each presentation, there'll be a chance for a Q&A with the speakers. So there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please submit your questions straight into that, and then I will relay them to the speakers as well. After each of the 4 speakers have spoken, we'll get all of them back together to have a group discussion at the end. But we have 90 minutes for this webinar, so it's going to be, like I said, jam-packed. If you have comments, as you're doing now, please keep introducing yourself via the chat box. As I mentioned, super important to submit questions via the Q&A box. And we're also streaming this on YouTube. So hello to everyone joining us via YouTube. And you can also submit your questions on the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. And via the magic of modern technology, these will work their way back to me and I'll pass them on to our speakers. So that's enough from me. Let's get started. And our first speaker is Francesc Gil i Fontales, the director from the Waste Agency of Catalonia. Francesc is an agricultural technical engineer from the Barcelona School of Agriculture. For over 20 years, he's worked at the Catalan Waste Agency as a technician, responsible for promoting the separate collection and biological treatment of biowaste, as well as the production of quality compost. He's now Director of Strategic Planning of the Waste Agency of Catalonia and coordinates the program for prevention and management of waste and resources. He's involved in the drafting of new laws on the prevention of waste and sustainable use of resources across the whole region. He's also a founding member of the European Compost Network. So, Francesc, I hand the floor to you and invite you to share your screen, unmute yourself, and share your wisdom.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. We
Yes.
see your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would appreciate a lot for inviting me in this webinar. I would like to tell that I am not the director of Waste Agency of Catalonia. I am the strategic planning director of the Waste Agency of Catalonia, who is the public company belonging to the Ministry of Environment, who is in charge on waste management in our country. My presentation is perhaps a little too long for the time we have, and therefore I will quickly highlight those aspects that seem for me of greatest interest. I apologize for this, but in the presentation you will find more detailed information for those who are interested. So starting in this presentation, let me see. Okay, in this long travel of more than 25 years, we have to recognize that we have learned from other countries, from Germany, from Austria, from Italy. It's the fact we have to share, and we have to learn from others, and we can share our experience to others in order to improve their situation. Okay. And we also started answering the main questions. I have no time to go in detail, but why to do it? We have the first law on waste in our country in year 93, who established the compulsory separate collection of bio-waste. And of course, there are a lot of environmental reasons to do it in this moment in our last framework directive, waste framework directive. We have the compulsory obligation for separate collection of bio-waste. We also have high targets to reach, which are impossible to get without the bio-waste separate collection, for sure. What we consider all kind of organic waste from animal, from vegetable, in our country reaches 36% on weight, which it means about around 1,200,000 tons of bio-waste per year. Okay, and in this moment we are, for your information, we have reaching 46% of separate collection of municipal waste, which means about 39% of recycling. Okay, in Catalonia. Of course, who who has to do this? Of course, citizens in their households, but also commercial activities. It's very important because they can provide even more than 55 to even 50% of the biowaste generated in each municipality. How to do it? Of course, we have learned a lot about this, and we for sure use compostable bags and aerated buckets, which is the most efficient way for collecting biowaste at home. And of course, we started making the separate collection through road containers, but of course, we implemented more than 20 years ago the door-to-door collection, which I show you later. And of course, where to manage it, biowaste delivered to composting or to anaerobic digestion plants, or both mixed systems, not forgetting the home composting or community composting. Okay. This is a long journey of more than 25 years. We started in year 1996. We have the law on waste in 93, but 3 years later, we have the first experiences in 3 municipalities with the separate collection of biowaste through a road container. But few years later, we could check that the quality was not good enough, and the quantity also has not the best performances. So we introduced a door-to-door collection, and it was in year 2000. And in 2004, our country introduced the environmental taxation, specifically landfill tax. And 4 years later, in 2008, the incineration tax, which has been a great pillar, a great key for the successful management of biowaste. I will explain you. And later we started to introduce some fair tax, pay-as-you-throw system, or bonification by participation. Okay, this is our long journey, and always it has been focused to get quantity and quality of biowaste, both at the same time. This is the evolution of the biowaste management since 1996 up to last year, 2021. We are collecting around 100,000 tons biowaste plus green waste per year. And this is one of the important things we have to share with you. We have started in 2004, the landfill tax. And as I will show you later, we also have a tax that allows us to get some money that has to be refunded to local authorities. Okay, and we refund this money to them in relation to the quantity and the quality. So we have obliged to control the quality. This is why we have a system, a very interesting system, with around 2,000 biowaste quality controls per year. This information is public. You can find here in this link. And of course, we make some differences. What is right? Okay. Also, we make distinction between food waste and green waste, and also we measure food wastage, which in this moment is around 10% in our biowaste, in addition to all impurities, glass, paper, plastics and metals. No, you can see here the evolution of the biowaste. On average, we are in last year, in 2021, we reached 8.5 of impurities, percentage of impurities. Our target was maximum 10%. The evolution has gone in a positive way. And most part of those impurities, as you can see here, are plastic, okay? Plastic bags or plastic packaging, okay? We are pushing and working a lot, and our next target probably will be to reach less than 5% of impurities. As you can see later, the outcomes are very different depending on the system we are using. And for sure, since we started in 2000, we have made a great evolution in the implementation of door-to-door collection in our country. In this moment, not in the map was in May, but just yesterday, we have even get more than 300 municipalities who have implemented separate collection through door-to-door system. which means more 1/3 of the Catalan municipalities, and it about rather 800,000 people involved. What is important is comparing the outcomes, the performances of those systems. You can see here the data of year 2020. It's in kilogram per inhabitant per year, and you can see that the average numbers of all fractions is improved when we move from road container to red color to a green door-to-door collection system. In bio-waste is plus than 2.5 more times, and also, but also in paper, in glass and packaging, and of course residual waste is reduced to 2.4. This is for quantity outcomes. In blue, there are some municipalities which are mixed, which are using door-to-door collection, but in a part are using a road container. The quality of bio-waste is, of course, much better. This is average of all data of our country. And for collection, we can say that in our country, the bio-waste separate collection is implemented in all municipalities. Most of them are using road container or door-to-door systems, and some, the smaller one, are using community composting or home composting. We have a net of biological treatment plants, 22 composting plants and 4 digestion plants. Of course, we have to enlarge and to implement more infrastructure in order to be able to treat more bio-waste in near future. And this is important. This is the scheme that we have used for a landfill tax. Municipalities, when deliver their residual waste to landfill or to incineration or to MBT plants, they have to pay a tax. And this tax is, in this moment, near 60 euros per ton for landfill and near 30 euros per ton for incinerations, in addition to the fee. This tax is transferred to the Waste Agency of Catalonia, and it means that we can collect around 106 million euros this year, okay? But at the same time, when municipalities go make separate collection of bio-waste and deliver it to the biological treatment plants, they can receive a tax refund in relation to the quantity and the quality of bio-waste. It is made through a criteria which are published year by year. And in this moment, in year 22, it is 34 euros per ton in concept of treatment and 54 euros per ton in concept of collection. It means clean tons without impurities, okay? And this is why we say this is the carrot, sticks and carrot strategy, which is a double incentive for pushing for going to taking out bio-waste from residual waste and making good separate collection of high quality in order to make possible the bio-waste recovery in our plants. Okay, this is very interesting. Here you have more or less the average overall cost for landfilling and incineration in our country, and we are sure that if we wish to reach the European targets, we have to increase still more the overall cost in next years up to around 130, 150 euros per ton. Okay, I have no time. Those are the tax rate has the evolution over the years, the amount of money we have collected. So we have refunded about 96% of the money we have collected. Okay, this is important. And this is the evolution. We are now into 2022 and the evolution of the tax for next years. Okay, and for finishing, which are our and probably also others challenges for other countries in bio-waste management. First of all, is improving in an efficient separate collection system in large cities. We also have capital of our country, but with not very good numbers, but they can have, and they can for sure, because other cities have done, they have the possibility to improve in other more efficient systems. This is one of the main important targets. Otherwise, it could be difficult to reach European targets. The second one is still improving in the quality of bio-waste. We have to reduce, and we wish to reduce, and if possible, not reach more than 5% of impurities. Door-to-door collection, most of them are in a level of 1, 2 impurities, so it's very low, or 0. Challenge 3 is in 10 years, we have to increase the biological treatment capacity by around 400,000 tons. So it means more capacity, enlarging plants or making new plants. Most of them, if possible, introducing the decentralized management or kilometer zero, more little plants or more closer for the generators. And last one is phasing the appearances of the biodegradable compostable materials, products, packaging or not, that we will find in our collection of bio-waste. Okay, this is a quick, but this is the view of 25 years of working in this area. Thank you very much.
Jess, thank you very much. That was an incredibly rich and sort of informative presentation. And just to say that all of the speakers' presentations will be available on our website after the webinar. So to go back and sort of look at the data that Francesc provided there, I think, yeah, will be free and accessible to everyone. So thank you very much. We just have time, a couple of minutes maybe for a couple of questions, Francesc, about, yeah, the great work you've been doing. I think there was one from Harry in the chat about compostable bags to use. And this is a common question we get about, you know, how do you reduce the plastic contamination in bio-waste, and how do you know which compostable bags, I suppose, to use? And you mentioned it right at the end there about this sort of biodegradable sort of phenomenon that products and bags are taken on when in fact they're not, or only biodegradable in certain contexts, and that's a very rare thing. So how have you and how sort of the Waste Agency, how did you begin to roll out the compostable bags of cities, and how do you ensure their quality and sort of they enhance and don't affect the system negatively?
Okay, we started the separate collection of bio-waste using paper bags. Okay, but due to our bio-waste characteristics, it was very wet material. We don't find it work properly. And when we have the possibility to use compostable bags, I mean those who are have certification, European certification of compostability, for sure we prefer, because there is a great evidence that using compostable bags with aerated buckets is the best system for citizens to make this at their home, because the reduction of odors, no problems with leachates and so on, makes that people has confidence on the system and makes people to take part in the system. Otherwise, people can start, but sometime later, perhaps they stop the separate collection if problem arise. So we are comfortable with this, because in addition to this, in such cases with door-to-door collection, it allows to have a more better control of the quality of the material, because they are translucent. And in addition, for sure, who is using compostable bags, for sure will have much better quality of their bio-waste. So we are convinced, and in all subsidies that we are giving for municipalities to implement separate collection, we only give compostable bags and aerated buckets. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, brilliant. Yeah, really important points you mentioned there. One final question for you, just before we move on to our next speaker. How has the pay-as-you-throw system been rolled out across the region, and have you noticed the sort of any impact this has had on waste reduction? Yeah, sort of what is the learnings from the system so far?
Can you repeat, please, because I could not understand you well. Which is the
pay-as-you-throw system, sorry.
Pay-as-you-throw, okay, pay-as-you-throw system. Okay, we have some few experiences. I think about 7, 10 in our country are working for sure well, and our intention is that in the new waste on law that we are drafting just now, it can be a compulsory issue for the next years, taking in consideration in a gradual way, because it's not the same for large cities than for small towns. But we consider that the environmental taxation is very important, and for sure we have our experiences and has helped a lot our country to improve. But this environmental taxation is made from our government to the municipalities, but it has to go down even to the pocket of citizens in such a way that if they really are, they know that their participation in the system, their work has economic consequence, for sure can also help to make a best separate collection, to reuse, to reduce, to so I think it's necessary. It's most countries in Europe have implemented a lot of experiences of pay-as-you-throw system, and we are just in the beginning. But we hope that we can reach in some years. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, absolutely. There's lots of good examples of how pay-as-you-throw does help achieve that sort of extra reduction and prevention impact that you're seeking. Francesc, thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So yes, we're going to move on now to our second speaker, Ms. Martina Gaslova from, she's the country manager of JRK Slovensko, whose work and passions are biodegradable waste, composting, and healthy soil. Martina leads the JRK Slovensko team, which has been a partner for Slovak municipalities in the field of waste management and waste prevention for more than 10 years now. Martina is an ambassador for the effective collection of kitchen waste in Slovakia, which, the main essence of which is not only to sort waste, but also to use it in the fight against soil degradation and the climate crisis. And the work that she leads on helps connect the activities of JRK in Slovakia with European experts in composting, door-to-door collection, and soil health as well. So, Martina, I hand the floor to you. And
Thank you, Jake. That was great, really. Thank you very much. So I hope you can see my screen, you can see my presentation. Perfect. So let's start. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm absolutely happy and glad to be here and to share some best practices from Slovakia with you regarding collection of household food waste. I'm coming from Slovakia, and Slovakia is a country where is still 48% of MSW landfill. So you can imagine how difficult and tough it was to start with separate collection of the food waste. But thanks our Ministry of Environment, who stayed very strong in their decision, the obligation of separate collection of food waste is valid since 2021 in Slovakia. So in comparison to our Catalonia's friends, we have only one and a half year experience, but I think we are some achievements which we can share with you. So as you can see on the right side, we have still a lot of potential in the residual waste. This is the average of more than 100 physical analyses which we made in Slovakia, in small and also large cities in last 3 years. So you can see that the organic waste is about 40, or the share is about 45% of the residual of the MSW. So this was the potential which we tried really to take away from the black bins. So I chosen two best practices for today, and we'll see the best practice from small city Partizanske and from the capital Bratislava. The system was implemented under consultancy of Mr. Marco Ricci from Italy. Italian system was chosen because of its great results in many municipalities like Parma, Milan, and many others. So what does the system look like? Every family, as you can see, if it doesn't matter if we speak about single family houses or condominiums, every family received a 10-liter vented caddy plus compostable bags. So as Francesc already mentioned, these vented caddies and compostable bags are the first and the most important part of the whole system. Why? Because we have to start the collection of the kitchen waste in the place where it comes from, and this is a kitchen. So then it is the delivery distance for the household, for the family, for the people is 0 meters, and this is the main advantage. Thanks to ventilation and the compostable bags, we can reduce odor and flies, so the comfort for residents is very high, not just because of short distances, but also hygiene, and everything is set not to demotivate people. Then for single family houses, you can see that every one family has a container, 30, 40 liters, depends, which is used for collection on the street. For condominiums or high-rise buildings, there is a 120 or 240 liter container on the street. The frequency is also very important. We started with the frequency twice a week. Here are some pictures you can see. On the left side, there is a Partizanske, and they implemented real full door-to-door collection. You can see that the residents have to put their caddies in the common space in the ground floor of the condominium. So you can see it on the bottom. And on the right side, there are two pictures from Bratislava. There is a 204 liter street container and small caddy in the front of the single family house. The infrastructure has high influence on the results, but there is also something else what is important, and this is a communication. Great opportunity to explain why and how to the residents is distribution of vented caddies and biobags. So you can see how was this distribution done on the pictures. We had many groups of activists who got a very good training, so they were able to answer the questions of people. What I want to mention very clearly, in Partizanske, we used our own smart software named Elvis. You can see it here, that we were working with the iPads. So that was used for the distribution. It means that the city has now very good overview which family already got the starter pack and can later prepare the activities for direct contact to the rest of the people who had not joined to the system yet. So meetings with residents are very important, and we can use this distribution time when to start these meetings. Here you can see the picture from the newspaper from Bratislava. In Bratislava, that was really and still is a great party. You can see these tents, flags, many people discussing the importance of sorting the food waste or bio waste or kitchen waste. So that was really very, very nice campaigns, and very important is really to make it continuously. Here you can see, for example, that's the picture from the movie which was presented on Facebook, and this is the mayor of Bratislava. So when you are able to catch the government and to make them be a good example of the system, then you won already. Okay, so now the next slide is very important, but I have to give you some sentences before. So the whole system is not only the infrastructure and communication is not important only because we want that people are participating in the collection, not because we would like to collect so much bio-waste, so much kitchen waste as possible and to reduce the residual. This is important also because we want to have the collection very not only effective, but also on a high quality level. And I would like to present you the results from these two cities, from Partizanske and Bratislava. So what about the impurities? Yes, you can see it right. This is from Partizanske, and we analyzed 352 kilograms of food waste from different streets around the whole city of Partizanske, and the share of impurities was 0.07%. Yes, you can say small city, easy to communicate, and easy to control. So let's have a look on the results from Bratislava. Surprised? Great, that was my goal. As you can see, the share of impurities in Bratislava was 0.98% as well. And when you look at on the right side, you can see that from the impurities, there was 24% were big bones and 17% paper and wood. These both parts are compostable, so it's this 0.98% is really very correct number. So good infrastructure, caddies in every kitchen, bags, short distances, communication will bring you not only quantity, but quality as well. So the next question is, what does it look like if we don't follow the recipe? I always try to explain to our municipalities that there is a very good recipe from Italy for a great, we can say, cake. But it is like with every cooking recipe. If you are making changes, if you exclude sugar or you put baking soda instead of flour or put oil instead of water, or put broccoli instead of cherries, at the end you will not have the same cake. So on the left side, you can see three pictures from the cities which didn't follow the whole recipe. You can see how it looks like without vented caddies, without compostable bags. And at the end, people dislike the separating of food waste because it is disgusting, because it is smelly, full of fly larvae. Would you like it? Me neither. In comparison to this situation, you can see on the right side the example from the city where are the kitchen caddies used, where are the compostable bags used. This is really the main difference. So, some takeaways. As I mentioned, communication is very important before, during, after, and forever. All ages, all groups, all people. And for that, you need a plan. Correct infrastructure, vented caddies plus compostable bags, short delivery distances to container on the street. Again, communication, very important. People have to or need to understand why and how. Compostable bags, as Francesca already mentioned, must be certified. The cities which I was speaking about decided to deliver the quantities for the whole year. An ideal is to prepare the ban for plastic shopping bags for fruits, vegetables, and bread. Again, communication. Please don't forget that the communication is the main part of the whole system. Distribution is a way how to directly and effectively educate people. Be not surprised, again, communication. I want really to be sure that you will not forget this very important part. Okay, government has to be a role model. That would be ideal, as I mentioned. Communication. And monitoring on family level and later implementation of pay-as-you-throw system. What's great in Partizanske, there are these kitchen caddies already with QR codes. So the city Partizanske is able now to monitor which family, how much kitchen waste do they produce and in which frequency. This is the base level for future implementation or future digitalization of the whole waste management and then implementation of pay-as-you-throw system. Please do not forget communication, not only at the beginning of the implementation. You have to think about how to communicate the importance of the kitchen waste collection also after 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. High frequency of food waste collection, minimum is in our experience is twice a week, and important is also to make the frequency of MSW of the residual as low as possible. The people has to see the difference that now we have 2 street containers for the residual and we will move one away, increase the frequency or make the lower frequency. And here are new containers for kitchen waste and they are emptying twice a week. So thank you for your attention. And in case you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Martina, thank you so much. Lots of questions coming through in the Q&A box. I think it's, testament to the interest and the great work that you've done across Slovakia, but particularly the 2 case studies you mentioned. Of course, my first question is going to be on communication. I have to start there. And I think there's a couple of questions in here about the strategy. How did you create the communications plan, particularly to sort of reach maybe harder to reach, more elderly adults within the community? And then second question about how do you keep on communicating with people? You engage them at the start, yes, but how do you continue this on a longer journey?
First thing is you need a PR company or you need professionals. You are not able to do it but your own. But we are professional in waste management, so we are the people who has to prepare the base for this PR agency. So, and we had a lot of great examples of marketing and PR activities from Italy. We had a lot of examples from Catalonia. So there are many sources. Just look for them. Be in touch with the professionals. We be in the connection with other people from waste management, and you will find sources which are great to communicate.
And on that topic, do you know roughly how much of the budget was sort of protected for communications from the city?
Not really, but of course I can ask and I can have the numbers later.
No problem. It's just, as you rightly
was not very expensive. Not very expensive. Because that we started with small pilots. So of course at the beginning the budget also for the communication was very low. As I mentioned, you can use this distribution time when you can directly communicate with really many people.
Great. So not too expensive and highly effective. That's
Yes, right, definitely.
One final question. It's a common challenge we get across many cities. It's these condominium buildings, the high-rise apartment buildings. How, particularly I think in Bratislava, you mentioned the system briefly, but maybe you could just explain a bit more detail how you approach these kind of buildings and how you overcame issues with sort of containers in a common area, perhaps. If, from what I understand, there are small bins taken to a larger bin. Any problems with animals, smells, stuff like that?
Yes, of course, there are always people who will have claims and who will speak about the smell and about the flies and I don't know what, but the waste, this is the same waste as it was before. It is only in another bin. So the same kitchen waste we throw away before to the black bin, to the residual. Now it is the same amount of the kitchen waste, the same quality of kitchen waste in a different bin. So that was smelly also before. And we can solve this problem with the compostable bags, because if you use the compostable bags, the waste inside can breathe, so then it is going dry and it is less smelly than if you have the waste in the plastic bag. So you have to use again the correct infrastructure. So if you have these compostable bags, you reduce odor and you reduce flies and people will be more satisfied.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Martina. Yeah.
You are welcome.
We've heard a lot about Italy so far in both presentations. So now let's hear from Italy itself. And so our next speaker is Franco Amagioni, a councillor from the Fidenza municipality since 2018. And Fidenza is a municipality in the Parma province of the Emilia-Romagna region, which is in the north of Italy, and has about 27,000 inhabitants. The municipality separately collects 83% at the moment and generates just 80 kilograms of residual waste per person. As I said, Franco has been a councillor at the municipality since 2018. He's also an economist with a master's in urban transformation from the Milano Politecnico. My apologies, the University in Milano. That's my precision is coming through. He also has a qualification from the London School of Economics in Public Policy Analysis. Marco is also an OECD consultant and works on the simplification of Italian companies' environmental permissions. So we're extremely lucky to have Franco join us today. And yes, I was going to say, feel free to share your screen, but I see you're already way ahead of me. So please, the floor is yours, Franco.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot for being me here with you. And you have seen already that I mentioned the size of my city, just between Milan and Bologna, very close to Parma. And Francesca spoke about Parma before, only 24 kilometers west of Parma. And we host a very strong industrial sector, and we have an agri-food excellence. We host 7 cheese factories in our town, producing Parmigiano Reggiano, especially. And we have also 12,000 households and 2,500 businesses and roughly 16,000 employees. You see also the income index in this slide and the consumption index compared to 100 of the national level. Okay. You see Sandolino Multiservizi is the town of Fidenza public company that from 2006 managed directly the waste collection for our city. And in 2007 introduced the door-to-door collection throughout the municipal area. The company is entrusted the waste collection and management service from the regional authority that is named Atersir in 2018, and then we began from January 2019 to acquire direct management of the service, which comes into operation in 2020. And the service is carried out exclusively by internal staff. In this slide, you see the growing of a separate collection percentage in Fidenza from roughly 54% in 2006 to nowadays 82% in the first semester of 2022. Speaking about benefits and critical issues, we have today 35 employees working for the company, including organizational and operational personnel. And speaking about benefits, we have more flexibility than in the past, timeliness of intervention, control over business costs, and direct feedback on the service. On the opposite, the transition from supervisors to producers of the service has to face issues, for example, on the job training, the building of a team focused on the administration of the company and safety at work, for sure. We have also to face direct problem management with direct contacts with users, and I will speak next about signals and the management of signals. And we have to focus on the service chain, especially speaking about waste quality. Speaking about signals, this is a good example of the benefits and critical issues of direct management. The company is directly accountable towards citizens and collects immediate feedback that allows to intervene quickly and flexibly. And we have different channels, as you see, from the free phone number. You can fill in the form on the website. You can fill in the form on our app that is named L'Eco del Borgo. And also you can use social networks like Facebook pages of the common, but the lesson learned is that the quest for a balance between different sources of signals. And we try to change for the next year a management software dedicated to signals from city users, and it will manage all the town services signals, not only waste. Here you see the production of separate collection and residual waste. The residual waste went from 212 roughly kilograms per capita in 2006 to nowadays between 85 and 90 kilograms per capita. And the role of bio-waste collection is roughly 20% along the latest years. We have also a very low cost of the service per inhabitant. You see that it is lower from the province of Parma or Emilia-Romagna region. And at the same time, we have a very high customer satisfaction compared to Emilia-Romagna region and other Italian cities of the same size. A very good example about separate waste collection, and the lesson learned for us is the quality of the material. Speaking about the glass, especially, we introduced in 2020 a dedicated collection that previously was carried out with plastic and cans, and it means a higher residue quality and increased collection rate, and also last but not least, economic benefits. And you see here that we went from 2019 with 21% roughly of glass, plastic, and cans altogether, to the first semester of 2022 with roughly 27%, and also with revenues from glass and plastics that you can see on the slide. We collect 3 times a week from bio-waste from household users, and also from non-domestic users. And we provided bins and bags of different sizes. You see in the slide the small bin under sink of 7 liters, the medium bins 30 liters for exposure outside the household, and the big bin for condominiums 120 liters, similar to the previous presentations. We collect approximately 2,400 tons of bio-waste every year, and bio-waste is sent to a recovery and recycling company in Montello, Bergamo, approximately 140 kilometers from Fidenza, and through anaerobic processing, the waste is transformed into compost for sale. We also have worked in the latest years in the home composting area, and you see here the number of self-composters distributed to households. There are a total of 500 roughly self-composters all around the town, and it is about the 3% of the total of households. What's new for 2023? The future plans of the Fidenza town. Sure, pay as you throw, more you separate, less you pay. We plan to begin pay as you throw in the first months of the next year. We will buy 4 more eco stations for separate waste self-collecting for more flexibility, especially in the historical center of the city. And we are planning to build new offices and service center, and to renovate completely the local recycling depot. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Wow, Franco, the results you're achieving without pay-as-you-throw is extremely impressive. So with that, from next year onwards, very, very interested to see where it goes from next. So thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. A couple of questions for you here, and I think, yes, about the sort of, you mentioned Fidenza has one of the cheapest waste management in the region, but yet you're offering collection 3 times a week, and you provide the bins and the sort of caddies, the bin bags as well. How is the system? How are you doing that whilst also making it one of the cheapest in the region, I suppose?
Yeah. You have to know that we started till 2 years ago with collecting bio-waste and other materials 5 times a week. So we passed from 5 times a week for bio-waste to 3 times a week. And it is the first of the transformations of the last 2 years. And we reduced also the timing of undifferentiated materials as well. And so at the same time, the possibility to have a completely owned 100% company, public company, is a very guarantees a very flexible approach also to costs.
Great, amazing. So I guess
it's important to know that this is also a challenge, because a very small city as Firenze is, only 30,000 people, having a public company only for our town is a very big challenge in any case.
I can imagine, yes. And one final question is, you mentioned there was about 300 home composters at the moment within the municipality. And what kind of priority does home composting sit within your biowaste collection system? Are you trying to expand it? Is it a cheaper service, or are you sort of happy with some compost where it's possible and others, the rest of the biowaste is set for anaerobic digestion?
Oh yeah, we give a lot of importance to communication, as was said before, and we have an agency that is working for us, for example, for new project that is starting in the next weeks with our schools. We are engaging 60 classes of our schools with a plan of information and communication about the importance of collecting the right way, because probably the most interesting thing is that children go to home and explain to their parents how to do the right way, the collecting of biowaste and so on. And this is one of the communication projects of our city.
Great. Back to the importance of communication again. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Right, we're going to go to our fourth and final speaker now, but last but definitely not least, Irina Mironova is the Executive Director of Zero Waste Lviv and a founding member of the Zero Waste Alliance Ukraine. Irina has received a Master's in Ecology and Environmental Protection from the National University of Kiev. And Irina, she also has over 15 years now of professional experience as a sustainability manager and business consultant, including as a corporate engagement officer at the World Wildlife Fund of Ukraine. Irina is also a member of the Environmental Board, PLAS, which is a national scouting organization of Ukraine. Irina is joining us today from Sharm el-Sheikh, COP27. So, and Irina, I'm going to share my screen with your slides. I took a sneak peek. The second slide says positive news from COP, right? So this is very great to hear, because at the moment there's not enough. So please,
good afternoon, everyone, from Sharm el-Sheikh. Yes, and let's go to the second slide. Last week here on COP, the summary for urban policymaker was presented. So basically, it's a summary of the 6th assessment IPCC report, but conduced to what can be used in the cities. And this next slide shows that we awaited long to have the waste prevention, minimization, and management is seen as an overall feasible tool of mitigation and adaptation to climate change. And also there are other mentioning of waste prevention, especially food waste prevention, as a separate organic action and composting as something that we need more in the city. So now we have one more scientifically proved argument, even though that I know that in this community probably no one needs to have this proof. That's something that we known for long ago. And the methane topic is going big. So for the cities who are still depending on landfill filling of waste, separate organic collection and management becomes, and composting or anaerobic digestion becomes even more important. Next slide, please. Yes, so I'll start with where Lviv is. Probably now everyone knows map of Ukraine. So we are lucky one, only infrastructure bombing. So to the western border of Ukraine and Lviv before the war, we were a pretty large city, 783,000 population, but over almost 2 million tourists annually before COVID. But during the March and April of this year, when the war started, Lviv became a gate for refugees to flee the country. And there were a period of time where daily almost 2 million people reside in the city, which of course posed quite a lot of difficulties to the waste management as well, not mentioning all other services. Now nearly 1 million people resides in the city. And Lviv was the first one who introduced separate organic collection. So you can imagine that people from all over the world, all over the Ukraine came to Lviv, and we were only started before in 2020 introducing separate organic collection in the city. Now a new bunch of people joining and reside in the city who had never experienced that. So, but we continue, we do our best. And I'm going to tell today a story how we actually come up with separate organic collection in the country where main 95% of waste goes to landfills, and we have over 6,000 landfills still around the country. So next slide, please. That's how waste management looked like in its worst in 2016-2017, when we had a huge methane caused fire on our landfill. Finally, landfill was closed, and Lviv municipality didn't have a place where to send waste. So we had basically this waste crisis, and we was known all over Ukraine as a city that had to send its waste all over Ukraine to other landfills. So it made waste management much more expensive for Lviv than for other places, but it also pushed municipal government to look for the solutions. And we started with in 2017 the waste assessment, waste composition assessment was done by the consultancy company called GIS. Next slide. And it showed that at least 32% of waste is organic, kitchen waste from residential area, and 7% more it's green waste. But we were not kind of happy with this assessment, because Lviv is a very touristic city. As I said, we have over 1,500 restaurants around the city. We have a lot of companies, food processing companies. So the amount of organic waste is much, much higher. And again, this waste assessment was done in July and August, so when autumn foliage wasn't happening yet. And Lviv is a very green city, so we also have a lot of green waste. So that's where the story of Zero Waste Lviv also starts, because we were invited as a volunteer advisory group to look for ways for waste management for Lviv, understanding that some large infrastructure should be built, probably new landfill, hasn't happened yet. The city hasn't decided with the region where it should be. So we are still tracking waste all over Ukraine. But that's where we learned about zero waste city approach, and we put into the first city strategy the ambition to actually start separate organic collection and composting based on this imperfect waste assessment. Next slide, please. So we didn't really know where to start, so we start promoting individual home composting, and we were scaring people around, especially. So I started with my box of composting worms, and people were kind of intrigued. It got a lot of media attention. So if you want to start composting and you need to bring attention to it, find passionate people who will start vermicomposting in the apartment multi-horizon buildings. And then it gets much, much easier when you introduce community composting, decentralized composting. Next slide, please. So I visited Brussels, learned about the Worms, fantastic NGO who promotes decentralized composting, and we started a pilot project in our multi-horizon building. So we did competition among condominiums, and we choose 4 which to our in our opinion had the best practices of communicating with their residents. And out of 4 we had 2 very successful stories. So here you can see the head of condominium is showing to city officials, at that time head of the waste management company, that how people actually separate organics and don't mind having composters near the building. But we had also one not good example, which we happily share as well. So if you don't follow the rules, you will get a lot of stinky mess. And that's also very important learning. So decentralized composting is a good way to prove to the citizens and to the government that it's doable, and but you have to do it right. So after that, city council and the municipal company in Green City built the composting site. Next slide, please. And introduced centralized composting options. So we are using 120 or now 240 liters containers. So we started. It's still voluntary system, and we started promoting bag-free collection, and yeah, it makes people sometimes angry that other people don't follow the rules. On the other hand, we still get a lot of plastic bags into the container. Next slide, please. So to our composting plan, the city council, we have 5 waste management companies working in the city. So different colors put where the container is and which company is operating. And one of the problems that we've got, that not all companies were happy with introduction of separate organic collection. So they would not really sometimes miss the round. So we've got a lot of problems with excess organics there, but finally everyone can accept that separate organic collection is happening in the city, and they have to actually start contributing to the success of this project. City Council put on their webpage this electronic map, and they start adding the places where containers they would put, and they did it slowly. So they would go to the condominium, talk to residents, put container, and slowly covered, I guess in half a year, they covered the city. Next slide, please. The big part of introducing separate organic collection was to actually prove to the citizen and tell the story where the compost, where the waste goes, that it doesn't go to the landfill, that it's actually processed. So we would take lots of tours to the composting plant, and you can see still impurities here, but at some point, because the composting takes up to 3 months in the windrows, and then they put it into the sowing system, and they put back what haven't been composted yet, and sometimes they put too much bags back into the system, so at some time it accumulates. So the purity is actually a bit better than you can see on the right screen. Next slide, please. The composting plant is also the composting site, its capacity is 30,000 tons of organic waste per year. We hadn't reached that amount yet. Last year, it was almost 8,000 tons. Composting plant accepts all green waste, including we have a separate campaign for New Year trees, and then all the clipping, wood clipping from around the city goes there. Then it is shredded, and in composting process, the technologist is making sure that the good portion of both brown matter and kitchen waste is mixed, and that the good quality compost is produced. And also composting plant is using the microorganisms to start composting, to act in the middle of the process, and finishing microbials, and they test the quality of compost and the amount of different chemicals important as a fertilizer, like potassium or nitrogen or phosphorus. And where the compost goes, I saw this question in the chat Q&A box. It goes to either farmers, they're buying compost from the composting plant, or to our municipal company that takes care of the green areas around the city. So they produce a mix of soil and compost and use it for greening purposes of the city. Next slide, please. What we hadn't anticipated.
Sorry, 1 minute left. Very sorry. That's okay to start wrapping up.
So my time is over?
You got 1 or 2 more minutes, max.
Okay. So the last point that we haven't anticipated it, but the composting plant became extremely valuable service to the waste, to the fresh produce markets, and to the food retailers, and like coffee factory, beer factory. So they would bring by themselves their organic waste, and actually half of the kitchen-like waste we get from businesses there. Next slide, please. Now, among the challenges is to how to organize the collection from the restaurants. That's a picture from the waste audit at the restaurants, especially in the middle town, where we have old buildings, narrow streets, but we are working on that at the moment. Next slide, please. And that's how the compost is. And regarding communication, our municipal company, every month they report how much of green waste and food waste they collected, and also provide the informational campaign. We support them. Next slide, please. And of course, we have a lot of challenges ahead. It's how to scale up the collection, because we still have quite a lot of organic waste in the residual waste. Fortunately, the plastic bag ban and law was passed by our parliament 2 years ago, and starting January we will finally get rid of plastic bags in the supermarkets, and now we will get biodegradable bags. But unfortunately, what our supermarkets are putting onto the shelves, it's actually home compostable bags that actually are too compostable to be good for separate collections. So we are working on that, and we are still need to work a little bit on the tariff. On that occasion, I must say that with the introduction of separate organic collection, city made compensate 100% for composting for residents, so it's still for free, and 50% for businesses. So it's a kind of business case for them to start separate and compost. And next slide is just pictures of our problems, and yeah, that's it. So we still have greens in the mixed waste. We have 2 compostable bag. We have lots of plastic bags, and so now with war, we have sometimes problems on the side of waste collection in general. But despite of war, again, it brings more resilience to the waste management system if you can manage organic waste locally and properly. So thank you very much.
Irina, thank you very much. Gosh, what a amazing job you guys have done across the city in extremely challenging circumstances, of course. I guess one question to ask first and foremost is, how has the city funded the expansion of the separate collection, the bins, and all the other sort of activities that have been implemented since it started?
Partially, the funds come from the loan and grant that city got from European Bank for Reconstruction and Development for waste management project that city did the recultivation, the closing of the old landfill. They are building MBT plant, but we hope it is modular, so we really push so it will be more like MRBT once in operation. And they also spare some funds to build the composting plant. We had a unused plant as a part of the water treatment, old water treatment plant, so it was good suit to put the composting plant there, and it turns out to be much cheaper than even MBT plant. So it's probably this one was 38 million hryvnias, while MBT plant is 36 million euros, and the conversion ratio right now is 1:40. So yeah, kind of good deal.
Not a mathematician, but I can tell that's a better deal. Yes, thank you, Irina. Other speakers now. So maybe start with you, Francesca, and Martina and Franco. And a similar question, I suppose. One of the biggest challenges cities face is how to fund the initial sort of infrastructure needed to increase the separate collection of organics. And it'd be interesting to hear how the Waste Agency of Catalonia has done that, if it's extra funding or if it's embedded in the existing system. And I guess we only have 6 minutes left, so I'm going to ask each of you 2 questions to sort of close in terms of the funding one, but also if you there are many other cities on this call, what would be the sort of the 1 or 2 key messages you would say to any city who wants to start really achieving the kind of results that you guys have? So Francesca, I'll come to you first.
Okay, I think that there is one of the best challenges in large cities, because it's not the same to address this obligation in small towns or even medium cities than large cities. But we have some good examples like Milan City, for instance, and others that show that it's possible. So I think that it requires, first of all, political consensus, political will. I think it's the best, because otherwise we have started last year in Barcelona city, which is around one half million people. It's the capital of Catalonia, to implement door-to-door collection, and the outcomes were perfect. But we have some problems with citizens, which were for sure due to some political fighting in the city. So I think this is important. This is the most important. And the second, probably, Martina said, communication. Good, intelligent, smart communication. I answered somebody that when we address some messages to citizens, I think it's not only a matter of telling them how to do it. Most important is telling them why it is important to it, because if they can understand the why, it's more easy to convince them, and at the end they take part in the system. Yeah, okay, I will not take more time, because there are persons that can also take part in the question, in the answer.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And yes, really important key things to highlight there. Martina, coming to you in JRK in Slovakia, how did you fund the 2 pilots in Partizanskia and Bratislava? And similar sort of one key message, I suppose, for anyone looking to follow in your footsteps.
Okay. What was the problem? The main problem was that in Slovakia there are very few composting plants, so there was not a plan for. So everyone would like to collect the food waste or kitchen waste, but there was no plant which was able to recycle it. So it is very important to have the industry behind it. So that was the first reason why the start was very difficult. Then, of course, as Francesca already mentioned, the political will has to be there, because if you have to just start by your own with some activists and environmental activists, it is not possible. So you have really to have the strong mayor, the strong government in the front of the city, which is convinced that they see the advantages of collection of the kitchen waste. As Francesca mentioned as well, there are economical advantages, because in case that the landfill or incineration is expensive and you don't have money in your city, you have to think about it, how to reduce the residual. And this is very good beginning for many people, because they are environmentally not so active, but they think about their own pocket as well. So yeah. So you have to have the calculation. You have to know economical advantages, and then you have to speak to the government of the city and then to the rest. And what is very important, maybe I think there are always groups of people who are environmentally interested in things, who want to participate. Make them part of the process, make them part of the project, give them chance to help you. Look for your partners. Don't try to do it by your own.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant message, I think, to end on. So unfortunately, we're sort of run out of time now. And I think, yeah, just a massive, massive thank you to all 4 speakers today. We've had, yeah, brilliant examples from the region of Catalonia, Partizanska and Bratislava in Slovakia, Veneza in Italy, and Lviv in Ukraine. And sort of even in these diversities, the diversity of the context and the challenges that are faced, I think it's clear that sort of the key methods, the key principles of door-to-door collection for organics, compostable bags, the provision of caddies, delivers the best results for quantity and quality. And I hope, yeah, we begin to see a lot more of this rolled out across Europe. But thank you very much, Francesc, Banco, Martina, and of course Irina from Sharm el-Sheikh. And best of luck, Irina, to the rest of your COP27 activities, to you and the team out there. And thank you all for joining very much our webinar today. We really appreciate it, because we know how busy everyone is. Final few things from us is just to say, please register for our next webinar. It's on the 6th of December, I believe, looking at the future of recycling, and specifically recycled plastics used for food packaging. So a super interesting one not to be missed. We've recently published a report, I think it's in the chat, looking specifically into the topic of today's webinar, where we've compiled data from across Europe using some of the examples from today, but also others, to really just go into more detail about the best models available for municipalities to collect bio-waste. And of course, on the tools section of the Zero Waste Cities website, you can find the presentations from today's speakers. Feel free to watch the recording on our YouTube site, and you can sign up to our Zero Waste Cities newsletter on the website as well. So thank you all to our wonderful speakers. Thank you all for joining today. Have a lovely afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're joining from, and see you soon, hopefully. Take care.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.